You've obviously not been able to do most of these from the inside.
So one, why is it so? Second, if you haven't been able to do it, how frustrating has it been? How important a virtue is patience for a reformer? And third, a question that everybody wants an answer to is that after the latest political turn, can we see some hard hitting in the last 5 overs or 6 overs? Good afternoon to all. Okay. Good afternoon to all of you. Let me remind you that you have a choice of a better event at 5:30. So, those of you, if I had a choice, I know I would exercise that choice. I thank Kiran, Rajiv, Nandan and Shekhar for this wonderful event. The book has been in the market for a little over a year, but this was the first opportunity that we could get to launch it in Bengaluru. I'm happy to be here in your city. I know that your city faces many problems, but I would rather be part of a city that is growing, facing problems, than a dead city where nothing is happening. I think this is a happening city, and in all happening cities, you will have to live with some problems. It's much better than living in a city that is dead or dying or a ghost city. So I don't think we should feel unhappy about the great times which Bangalore is going through. These growth times mean that you're growing at a rate where the capacity to meet the problems of growth are not adequate. Maybe we should enhance capacity. We should build capacity. But for heaven's sake, please don't complain about the growth times, because that is part of the growth process. Now, having said that, when I wrote this book, contesting an election was far from my mind. Joining a government was even further removed from my mind. And becoming finance minister was the last thing that I had in mind. Nevertheless, I believe that what I laid down was an agenda which could and it should be adopted by any government committed to reform and any finance minister committed to reform. Let me begin with finance ministers. I think I referred to this in the book somewhere. How many of you have asked yourself the question, why have there been only 4 finance ministers in the last 17 years? And if you leave out one of them who was very unhappy to be there for 1 year, there have been only 3 finance ministers for 17 of those years. Why? Because this job, nobody wants this job. Nobody wants this job. We have had so many power ministers, so many education ministers, so many external affairs ministers. But this is a peculiar job. A job where you have to answer to everybody else's sins. You have to answer for your own sins. And you have to answer for the collective sins committed by the government. But it is the only job in the government after Prime Minister which can drive things in a particular direction. You know how Dr. Manmohan Singh drove India in a particular direction even when Mr. Narasimha Rao was Prime Minister. You know how, despite the BJP's rather inward-looking agenda, the 2 finance ministers of the BJP government held firm on the path of reform and did not allow any reform to be reversed. You know how in the 2 years I was finance minister first, despite the fact that it was the most disparate coalition that could be put together, with no majority support at all, we stuck to reforms, and we also launched some major tax reforms during that period. And now in the last 4 years, it's for you to judge when you get a chance to vote next year, and if you vote next year, to judge what we have done, what we have not done. I'll be the first to admit that large part of the agenda, as Nandan pointed out, remains incomplete. It will be so. It will take us another 10 years, 15 years to complete the agenda. But it requires patience, persistence, and perseverance. The danger is, and I'm increasingly worried about it, not for myself, but for my children, the young people in this audience, and the even younger children who are just getting into school. I'm very worried that, as Nandan pointed out, the space is being vacated for all kinds of irrelevant, dangerous, and potentially harmful ideas that have come to dominate political discourse as well as media debates. We must retrieve the space for what legitimately belongs to matters which actually concern the people of this country. You open any newspaper,